So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I've been looking for options, I guess, for a slightly more portable antenna, although I'm not completely convinced it's going to be the best idea. But what I've got today is an antenna that was lent to me by another amateur operator that I know, Gary ZL1GA, and it's a super antenna. It's a small loaded whip base loaded whip antenna. So I'm gonna set that up, and I'm just thinking about the best way to test it, because I really want to be able to compare it against, I guess, the wire type antennas that we've been using, like, you know, the random wires or something like that. And I wonder if I'm thinking that perhaps the best way to do it is to use something like Whisper, and set a Whisper transmitter up on say a wire antenna like I normally use, and this super antenna, and see from Whisper what the difference is. Now I have got two small Whisper transmitters, so I should be able to set both these up and have them operate at the same time. Whisper, if you remember, operates on like a 2-minute cycle, and if I set them both to 10 minutes, 10-minute blocks, so they transmit every 10 minutes, and I spread the time out, then we shouldn't have any problems. Now I know it's not a perfect comparison, because I guess all the band conditions can change within 10 minutes backwards and forwards, and we could get really unlucky and get no idea at all what difference, if any, there is. So well, I think we'll give it a go and see what we get. Anyway, it's a bit of an interesting antenna. I had to look online to work out how to put it together. So I'll set that up, and then I'll set up the transmitter, and we'll let it run for a bit and see what we get. Anyway, something different. Let's see what we can work out. Right, so we've set it up. It's a bit of a funny thing. I'll show it to you. So it comes with two options. You've got this tripod stand here, or you've got a spike and a bracket if you want to put it into the ground. To be honest, this is probably the more useful thing. Given the wind that you've seen we have, it's probably not, I mean, I don't know how stable that's going to be. And then you've got this telescopic whip part that comes up the top, and you've got this coil. Now the coil works by you slide it up to whatever you want to use, and the thing comes with this handy kind of card. So we can see that's actually kind of set for about 30 meters, and we're going to want it for 40 meters. So we're going to have to slide this right up to the top. Now the other part we need is the counterpoise, and well, not the counterpoise really. This will be a radial. So here's the one for 40 meters, and we'll test it with that. Now I'm testing it with 40 meters because that's the frequency we tend to use for the Pota, Sota, and other stuff in New Zealand. I'm probably not really going to bother trying to test it on any other frequency. This is the most common one, and if it's no good for me on this, it's no good for me for anything really. So what we're going to test it with, though, is this little Whisper transmitter. Now this is a Whisper transmitter from a company called Xiegu, which is in Sweden. Now normally the case is black, but this is faded in the sun. It's been out in the sun for over a year. Now it's a Whisper transmitter that it's got USB on here to provide power, and a connection to the GPS antenna. So it comes with a little GPS antenna like this. That's where it gets the time from, and the location as well, which is kind of handy. And you configure it on Windows PC. It's got some software for that, which allows you to then set the frequency that you want it to run on, or the band that you want it to run on, and how often you want it to cycle through that. Quite nice, quite nicely made. I've got this one that's in the case, and you can get it in a sort of a kit form, which I've also got, and that's what I'll use for the other antenna. So what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to use the VNA to just check what the tuning of this is like once I have it set up, and then we'll set the transmitter running, I'll just run off battery, and then we'll be able to look later to see where a location has been set up. Now, I am going to use 2 transmitters, and you think, well, how is he going to work out, which one is which antenna and which one's the other? Now, I could do it obviously based on time because I know the time I'm going to set it, but the other thing I can do is I actually have 2 call signs. So the ZL2NEB is the one that you've heard a lot of before. I have another one, ZL2 Oscar Bravo. So I'll use ZL2 Oscar Bravo for one of the antenna transmitters, and I'll use ZL2NEB for the other. And because of that, then we'll be able to work out which one's producing us whichever result we get. Anyway, I'll get the rest of the setup and tuned up with the VNA, and we'll set it going. Be interesting to see what happens. Okay, I've tuned it up. I didn't understand the chart correctly. It's we look at it. Kind of the picture of the coil kind of is close and matched to the top of here. Anyway, we're getting you won't really be able to see, I don't think, but so at the lowest point I'm getting 1.4 to 1, and for where whisper is, it's going to be about 1.5. Now, it does seem like if you get close to it, it gets a bit grumpy. Well, a lot of antennas do, I guess, and some people. So you probably want to operate away, or if you probably the VNA is not a bad way of actually checking out if you actually were to use this in the field that you had it right. I've got this table here, and I'd work on the table if I was going to operate from here, but it's shorter than I thought it was going to be. For some reason, I thought this was going to be bigger, but it is a super antenna, and as we all know, size isn't everything. So let's, we'll see how this goes. I'll go get the battery for the transmitter and hook that up, and let's. I don't know what to expect. Anyway, this will be a laugh. Right, a little bit more for me to set up, and then we're going to have to let it run, and then I need something else to compare it with. Now, what I had been thinking of is getting a shorter mast. Now, the mast you see me use is like a 9 or 10 meter one, and that's okay, but it only it's like 1.20 meters long or whatever. It's not that small, and which is fine if you've got a car, and even on the motorbike it's kind of been okay, but something smaller would be certainly a lot more handy. And in fact, the mast I have, you can't fit in a pack or anything like that. So there is a 6 meter mast that is made by Sota beams, and I'm thinking that actually might be not a bad option. These are not very cheap. There is an equivalent sort of thing from China, the JPC12, I think, probably a rip-off of this in some ways, and that's certainly cheaper. But the mast itself, the 6 meter mast is cheaper still, and really if I compare a 6 meter mast with a wire, that might be the most flexible option. So what I was going to do is take my 9 meter mast, run it out to about 6 meters, put that up on the other side of the house, and then run a wire on it. Now, I've been using those 9-to-1 unins, so because the whisper transceiver isn't going to be able to tune, it doesn't have a tuner, and I don't have a manual tuner here, what I might use it with is a 40 meter in-fed half wave, which is probably the closest I'm going to get to a relatively comparable antenna. Now, this is barely scientific, so don't complain to me if you think I'm being crazy, but I'll set it up and we'll see what happens. Anyway, a bit more to do. Well, interestingly, I moved a short distance from just there to here, maybe, I don't know, 3 feet, and when I checked the VNA, I needed to retune the antenna, so I wasn't really expecting that might be a little bit fussy. So this is what we've got. We've got the whisper transmitter. We've got a solar panel regulator, because I've got this battery that's in here being charged by a solar panel on top of this pole. This will give us 5 volts USB. We'll stick this in the box and hook it up, and it'll start transmitting every 10 minutes, and then we can go on the computer, and when the band opens, because we've got to wait for that as well, we should see, hopefully we'll see some spots, or not, or who knows. Anyway, I'll finish this up. Right, so set it up now. You'll see what we've done. So if you look over here, we've got a 49:1 propped on this piece of wood. highly technical. Got the antenna going up, and then down over there, and amongst the not airing our dirty laundry. It's actually clean. It will dry, I hope, though weather's not that flash. And I'm just checking it with the VNA now. In fact, what are we actually really going to get? I think maybe 1.8, 2 to 1.8 to 1 SWR. Not quite the same, but that mast at the moment is 6 meters, and which is the extension that I can get this other mast for, and I think this will be good enough. So, well, it'll be interesting to see what difference, if anything, there is. You'd expect this to. I kind of feel this will do better, although technically there's probably the same amount of wire in a way when you factor in the coil, but this should radiate more, maybe? I don't know. Who knows? Does anyone really understand antennas? Certainly not me. So I'll set up the other transmitter on this, and then we'll sit back, relax, and just wait for the results to come flooding in. Fantastic. Anyway, a little bit more to do. One of those endless exercises. I've been meaning to do this for a while. I put it off. Anyway, today we're doing it. So, keeping with our scientific rigour, we've got our panel set up to provide some power, got the battery, we've got the 5 volt converter behind there. This is another whisper transmitter in that kit form, and this is the filters for that whisper transmitter. We're using 40 meters, so we're using that. This is the GPS antenna, and then we're going to our 49:1 Anon. So we'll set that running every 10 minutes, and eventually we hopefully will get some results. Off to the computer now and wait for them. Well, we ran our test overnight, so it's been running for 24 hours, and I've learned a couple of things from the results so far. First, I've learnt that the battery that I had running the whisper transmitter on our end-fed half-wave isn't so good. So we lost, it didn't transmit for 10 hours, or 9 hours, sorry, within that time. So not really perhaps the most fair comparison, but still interesting to see what the results are. So in the time that it did transmit, the whisper transmitter on the end-fed half-wave did 365 spots. So it was 365 stations, of which 22 of them are unique. So that's not too bad. The furthest station away was 12,000 kilometres, almost 13,000 kilometres. So not a bad result for that, and probably what I kind of expected to some degree. Now, one thing I had forgotten to mention is that the transmitters, the power output is only 250 milliwatt. So they're pretty small when it comes to power output. And so, 12,000, 13,000 kilometers on 250 milliwatt is quite impressive, really. So anyway, so that's the end-fed half wave. We got 365 spots, 22 distinct stations, distance of about 12,000 kilometers over that time. Now we missed, again, about 10 hours of that. If I look at the results for the super antenna, we got 307 spots. Now this ran for that full 24-hour period that we had. And the distance it went is 11,000 kilometers. So practically the same distance. But 14 stations were unique. Now, one thing I can see from these results, and I'm using the Whisper Live interface to check to see what the data is like, is that I can see that the radiation pattern is different between both antennas. But I sort of expected that. That's not much of a surprise. We ended up slightly further into the United States and a lot more stations in Australia with the end-fed half wave than we did with the super antenna. But the distance was about the same. One point though that is actually significantly different is that if we look at the signal to noise ratio on the super antenna, we're around minus 20 dB as an average. So it's a whisper signal, and whisper signals are very weak anyway, and we're only talking 250 milliwatt. So that's not probably a massive surprise. If I look at the signal to noise ratio on the end-fed half wave, then certainly for the time it was operating, it's around minus 9, minus 10 dB. So a significantly stronger signal than what you're getting from the super antenna. Now, really, we did just 24 hours, and ideally we should probably run this for longer. And there's no, having done this test, there's no real indication that the super antenna isn't going to be perfectly adequate. But one thing I think we can say is that the end-fed half wave on a 6-meter mast does certainly at this point look like it's going to give you a better result. Now, what I should really do is go and actually operate both of these antennas and see if our scientific approach actually even matches reality. And that's what I need to do next. So what we'll do next, and perhaps we'll do this in a different video, is I'll take them both somewhere and we'll operate and see if we can pick up on the maybe something like one of the QESDRs, see what our signal strength is like on that. That might be a reasonable way of doing it. If I set both of them up, same radio, they're both resonant antennas, so I can toggle from one to the other, and we can perhaps get a picture from that. But at the moment, my preference, I think, is for getting a compact 6-meter mast and using the end-fed half wave. Anyway, so that's the first part of this, trying to determine what's a good option for something perhaps a bit smaller, a bit more portable. I think at the moment I'm favouring the mast. It means I can use the antennas that I'm already using and I'm familiar with, and really all I'm doing is just making the size of the mast shorter. The end-fed, the super antenna certainly has a place, and maybe with some real-world testing, it will actually, sort of be perfectly adequate. But until I do that next part, I'm not going to know. Anyway, there we go. That's the first part of that. Perhaps you've got some experience with a super antenna, or maybe you've got experience with a JBC12 or the PAC12, which is a very, very similar antenna. I'd be interested to know how you've found those in terms of real-world SSB operation in particular, or maybe I should be considering something different. Let me know. Thanks for watching. See ya.